Rivers, and you are watching the TriCast of my video blog. So you could be watching on Facebook Live or LinkedIn or YouTube. And however you are joining me tonight, I just want to say thank you for being here. Be sure to like and share and subscribe this conversation. I always try to come before you with some interesting and engaging information. So if you want to respond, I'm going to ask you as well your thoughts. I might not be able to respond to you directly now because of the TriCast situation. I don't know what platform you're on, but again, welcome to the conversation. When it comes to the collective Black power in our community, most of the time we are talking about how to get what is owed to us. We're either talking about reparations, how to get what's owed to us from the federal government, or we're talking about our collective political power and how we can get legislation passed on our behalf, or we're talking about the reorganizations of our communities so that we can put an end to legalized genocide by bully, liar, killer cops. That's most of the time what we're talking about, how to get the money. But tonight, I want to talk about what happens when Black people in America become millionaires. They create generational wealth. What happens to the money? And specifically, what happens to it when we get married? Who do we choose to marry? Because most of the time, who you choose to marry can be just as detrimental to your generational wealth plan as having never created the wealth at all. So a lot of you tonight, I want to talk about Kobe Bryant's widow. And you might have heard, and of course you've heard of Kobe Bryant. He was a legendary basketball superstar, and he did a lot of things on the basketball court and created millions of dollars through his advertising dollars and playing basketball. And then when he retired, he went on to become a successful business person. So when he died in a helicopter crash in January, along with 8 other people, one of those people being his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, he left behind a multi-million-dollar empire. And that now is control of his widow, his wife, Vanessa Bryant, who is a Latina. And so now those dollars are no longer considered to be a part of the African American community. Whatever money that might have been used in the Black community is now in the control of a woman who's not a part of the African American community. So that's why I want to talk about this just for a little bit. So be sure to like and share and subscribe to the channel if what you're hearing is something that you think somebody else needs to hear. I want you to share this, and maybe I'm talking to the person who needs to hear this. Now, so as I was saying, I was going to talk about this when he died in January. But then I wanted to give it a respectable amount of time before I started talking about money and Vanessa not being a part of the Black community. And quite frankly, I'm surprised that nobody else has mentioned that. As much as we in the Black community talk about creating generational wealth and people who owe us and getting what's owed to us, and all the cultures who don't respect us and take our money and disrespect us, nobody mentioned that this Latina woman who is now Kobe Bryant's widow is going to be in control of millions of dollars, and how that's not the best thing for our community. So that's why I didn't talk about it then. But as time went on and COVID happened and, things happen and life moves on. And here we are 8 months, 9 months later. And now it turns out that Vanessa, his widow's mother, so Kobe Bryant's mother-in-law, and they're having a family feud over Kobe Bryant's money. And just to recap, in case you haven't heard, Vanessa Bryant's mother, who is Sophia Lane, she did like a little expose interview talking about how how Vanessa had put her out of the house and taken the keys to the car. And she didn't understand why Vanessa had done that. Her daughter had done that after she had been there for her during her marriage to Kobe, as well as after his death, trying to help her with the 3 children that they have together. Because again, Kobe died with one of their 4th child, or one of their 4 children. And so then Vanessa responded in an interview saying that for the past 20 years, the length of their marriage, that she and Kobe had paid for the apartment for her mother to live in. They paid for a car for her mother, and they gave her mother a monthly stipend. And so Vanessa was saying she doesn't know why her mother's speaking out against her now. And so make no mistake, the money that she's talking about that has been paying for Sophia Lane, her mother's upkeep for the past 20 years, wasn't Vanessa's money. It was Kobe's money. It was a Black man's money that did all that. Because when Kobe met Vanessa, she was in high school. If you don't know the story, which you probably know more about it than I do, because I don't really keep up with this. I just, researched it because I'm talking about it now. But essentially, they met on a video shoot. He was trying to be a rapper / baller, and Vanessa was one of the girls in the video shoot, and that's how they met. And not that she pursued him, but he says that he saw her and he liked her. And so then after, again, she was in high school, so she didn't really bring anything to the table. Kobe was already a millionaire pro baller. And so he was about 21. And so after she graduated, then they got married. Now, maybe that was okay with Miss Sophia, Vanessa's mother, that her teenage daughter marries a millionaire. But what's not to love about a millionaire, a successful, handsome Black man with means, and he has everything and you have nothing, and he's willing to share it. So for Vanessa, that's like a no-brainer situation. And I don't mean to say that in a negative way, because I'm sure, Kobe was a nice person. But, you can always grow to love somebody that you don't love if they have millions of dollars. You're going to find a way, especially when you're in high school. So what did she have to offer him besides a pretty face, a slim waist, and a big booty? I mean, I don't know. Like, she was in high school. She didn't even go to college. She was in high school, and he swooped her and they got married. And so that probably was okay with Miss Sophia, because for the past 20 years, it's worked out for her, where she had her lifestyle taken care of. But if you know anything about the story, Kobe's parents, it was not okay with them. One, because if he was your son, you probably would have not wanted him to get married at that time either. He was too young, he was too wealthy, and this was a little young high school girl. And they did not have a prenup. And so Kobe went into this relationship, into this marriage, to a high school girl from Los Angeles with no prenuptial agreement and him being a millionaire. So you can probably see why his parents would have a problem with that. So let me ask you, would you allow your child to marry if he or she was a millionaire and no prenup? So how would you feel about that? So essentially, I guess when you're that age, because, we've all been a child, all been 20 years old at some point in our lives, and we think we know everything and we think we love this person. But at some point, it is going to become, I would think, you're not going to be the same person at 20 as you are at 30, as you are at 40. Things are going to change. And so his parents, knowing this, and also having the experience of knowing that being a Black man in America with millions of dollars, what that's going to mean in the long run for our community, for your generational wealth. What is that going to mean? It's more to it than just, oh, I love her and oh, I love him and he's so cute and she's so cute. There's just more to it than that. And so that's why we have parents. That's why you have people in your life to help guide you when you are making the most important decisions of your life. You need people like that in your life. But when Kobe decided to go ahead and marry Vanessa without a prenup, that was one of the beginning, I guess, of the rift in his relationship with his parents. And so, again, at some point, they did change. I would say Vanessa and Kobe did change it. And I don't know them personally, but I know with the development and the evolution of a person's personality and what's important, they changed. And along the way, there was at least twice that they were considering getting divorced. And of course, we know one of those times was when he got caught up with the hotel maid in Colorado when he was there for a game. And she ended up wanting to, she ended up wanting to accuse him. She did accuse him of a sexual assault. And not, whether it was a payoff or whether the charges were dropped because they didn't have enough evidence to hold up in court. The charges went away. But at any rate, there were times where having his parents in his life and their counsel, I'm sure, would have been beneficial to him. But his untimely death and just the rift, there was another issue in the family where apparently his parents tried to sell some high school memorabilia in exchange for money for a house or something like that, because they asked him for the money and he wouldn't give them as much as he wanted. So he's willing to fight his parents over a couple of $100,000. But when they tried to counsel him about having a prenup over millions of dollars at stake to a high school girl that you don't even know, he went ahead, head over heels with her. So sometimes we get caught up in society's image of what we should have and what we should be, how we should be living our lives. And the people closest to us, we will fight them tooth and nail. But the people out here in the street will take their word over somebody else's word. So again, I don't know if that's how it happened specifically, but just outside looking in general, that seems how it is. In fact, there's two other marriages that have come to an end in just recent months. Of course, that would be Tracy Morgan, the comedian Tracy Morgan. He was married for about 7 years to a lady who was like 15 years his senior. I'm sorry, 15 years his junior. And then after about 5 or 7 years of marriage, she has filed for divorce and is going to be splitting the millions of dollars that of his net worth. And then, of course, Dr. Dre of it just left me. Dr. Dre. I know he's a producer of NWA. He of NWA fame. Of course, he's done tons of other work since then. Beats by Dre, and he created millions of dollars worth of products in the industry that have been sold. And so his wife, I think they've been married at least 20 years. Nicole Young is his wife. Now she's an attorney, so she has a means of income, but she's of a different persuasion. She's not of the from the black community. So some people say that's what Dr. Dre gets for going outside of the community to find a wife. Now, going back to Tracy Morgan, of course, his wife is a black woman. They're probably still going through the divorce. So that's not to say that all black women are just, better wives, are going to be better partners, or the ones who are not black women are not the best partners. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying you have to look at the whole picture. Look at the big picture. It's not just about getting your needs met right now. You have to look at the big picture, especially if you are somebody who is seriously considering creating generational wealth in your community. Then you need to think about who it is that you're allowing into your personal space, and make sure that you are compatible with that person. Because if you are doing so much and they're doing so little, and it seems like they are adding more to the liability column of your life and adding less to the asset column of your life, then in the long run, that's going to be a bad move. So when you look at Kobe Bryant's parents and I just hate to see when a person has to choose. I hate to see when a person has to choose his or her spouse over his or her parents and family, when they all should be coming together, because that's what's going to help you stay together in the long run. So all these years of the rift that I think I read or heard that Kobe hadn't spoken to his parents on a friendly basis for at least 5 or 6 years based off of money, basically. And so, and keeping in mind the fact that his parents didn't want him to marry Vanessa from the beginning, whether it's because she wasn't a black woman, or whether or not because they were both too young, or whether or not it was because of having no prenuptial agreement, they weren't as friendly and open and inviting Vanessa into the fold as they might have been had those three things not been issues. And so once they got married, then probably they didn't spend that much time together. So then it looked, from the pictures that I saw, it looked like Kobe was more accepted into her side of the family than she was accepted into his side of the family. And that's not her fault or his fault, but it is, an issue that should be addressed in your life, and would have been addressed in his, because as it turns out, with her not being a part of the black community and him being, for lack of a better term, estranged from his parents, she didn't get the full understanding of, or the full appreciation of being a part of a black family. She would not have gotten that because he was estranged from his parents. And so that would also create less of a opportunity for her to get more respect and appreciation for the Black community and what we go through and how important it is to take generational wealth and put it back into his Black family and our Black community. She didn't have that, that I can tell. And so now she's in control of tens of millions of dollars, and that money, for all intents and purposes, is not going to go back into the Black community. So when you are seriously considering building wealth in your family, it's important for you to choose people who have the same goals and the same dreams. And what I have found in my experience is that men they seek women who are needy. They seek women who they can rescue. They seek women that they can save. And then they end up paying out. It's kind of like a catch-22. Men seek a woman that they can save and rescue, but then they get tired of saving and rescuing her. But that's what you said you wanted. In the meantime, a woman like me, for example, and I really didn't mean to bring men to this conversation, but I try to be self-sufficient at all times. And so sometimes that comes across as I don't need a man, but I'm certainly don't intend for it to come across like that. It's just that I'm self-sufficient. And so now I'm not talking about me anymore. Now I'm going back to the general story, just so you know. So then when a man sees a woman who seems to be not needy and seems to be more self-sufficient, he tends to not pay that much attention to her. And so he ends up getting with people, with women who are needy. And in the end, it turns out that wasn't the best type of a partner. So I would say men and women, we need to be more discerning about who we allow into our personal space. And with any relationship, that includes ascertaining, that includes understanding what is it that you actually want out of a relationship. Is this just a convenient hookup that we're going to just be together a couple of months or a couple of years, just for this good sex? Are you looking for somebody to give you babies and just to take care of your house, or you just want somebody to pay the rent? Or, what is it that you actually want from the relationship? So you won't find yourself hooked up with somebody and they totally don't want what you want. And now you're mad because you're stuck or you spent years with this person and you feel like you've wasted your time and your energy and your money, and you didn't even discuss all of this. And so now you have nobody to blame but yourself. So you gotta sit down and ask questions. I remember now I'm going back to me again. I remember when I was like in high school and college years, and a guy would say to me, I want to date you. I want you to be my girlfriend. I would ask him, so what does it mean to be your girlfriend? What do you expect from me? I just wanted to know, if you want me to be your girlfriend, what do you want? What does that mean? And so some guys would be taken aback, like they didn't have an answer. And I'm like, so what are you looking at? What are you thinking about when you tell somebody you want them to be your girlfriend? Okay, so if I say, yeah, now what? What are we doing? Like, are we just kissing and hugging? You buying my lunch? Like, what do you want from me? What does this mean? So I think a lot of us get caught up in society's box of what a relationship should be, when we need to ask the person that we're looking to be in that relationship with, what is it that you expect from me? And we would be better off. So again, with a relationship, there you should have goals. I mean, even if it's a marriage, even if it's with any relationship, anybody that you're spending your time with, there should be some type of understanding as to why we're spending time together. I mean, you can only eat out so much. You can only have sex so much. You can only do, whatever y'all do in a relationship. You can only do it so much. Like, what are we doing here? What's our goal? You know how at work, when you have like a weekly sit down meeting and y'all talk about what it is what's our goals for this week? You just need to know, like I do anyway. I'm like, what we doing here? What do you expect of me? Because otherwise, I can pay my own mortgage. I can pay my own car note. I don't need anybody to pay my way. But it would be great to have a partner so that we can do some stuff. Because there's some stuff that I need help with. Let's build a coalition, but let's talk about it. So, knowing, what it is that you plan to do in that relationship. And so that it would, set some goals and have some standards in your life about who it is that you want in your personal space. Because if you're Black in America, we've wasted too much time expecting for people to honor us just as human beings who deserve what we deserve because of our history. People are just not going to give you anything. In fact, I was doing an interview with somebody. I'm working on a documentary, and it's called. It is called, of course, right when I say what it's called, I can't remember, but it's called Twice as Good, because in the Black community, the old saying is you got to be twice as good as your white people on your job for you to get the same recognition, the same pay. And so you had to be twice as good. So I was doing an interview with one of the people in featuring, and I asked him, what would you say to your 20-year-old self? What would be the lessons to your 20-year-old self? And he said, among other things, that he would advocate for himself. Be an advocate for yourself. Speak up for yourself, because people are not just going to give you what you deserve. You got to fight for it. You got to speak up for it. You got to be willing to take it. You got to be willing to show you deserve it. And so we have to advocate for ourselves in our communities, especially. So although, it might be great to have some exotic arm candy, be it male or female, at the end of the day, is that going to help your Black family, your Black community? Because if it's not, you probably should reevaluate your goals. And, because that person doesn't care about you and your family and your culture and your generation like you do, like another Black person probably would. And so, the muscles and the booty and the pretty smile and all that, that's alluring. But in the long run, you should want to be with someone who has long-term generational wealth goals. And there's some people out there with, big butts and cute smiles and thin waists and muscles. And they also want to create generational wealth. So just look a little harder, quit being so desperate, and just think long term that we all at some point are going to leave this earth, and the generational wealth that you create, you want to leave it behind for somebody who is going to not just spend it up on useless things, but who's going to make a difference. And so if you haven't already, I want you to like and share this blog and subscribe, because when you're talking about being creating that generational wealth, and you're talking about having children, you want to make sure that the partner you've chosen, your wife, your husband, that person again can help you create generational wealth, can add to your asset column and take away from, don't be a liability, always be an asset. And that person is going to be a better parent to your children, so your children can pick up where you have left off. So to find out more about the things that I care about, please go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. Thank you so much and have a super day.